everyone, welcome to my fucking channel. Thank you all for being here and listening to my insane stories that I just have to tell you. This podcast is going to be about a really crazy house that I previously lived in, and I think this speaks for a lot of the crazy, random, insane roommate situations that we can get ourselves into, especially if you're living in like Vancouver, lower mainland of BC, where rent is just so incredibly high that we're all kind of doing different things. We're, sharing bedrooms at this point, and we're all renting houses out with strangers, and we can just get ourselves into these crazy, unsafe rental situations. Like, it's just insane. And I'm gonna tell you all about the crazy experiences I've had living in this one house in West Side, like Kitsilano area, Dunbar, in Vancouver. And there's going to be a huge element of supernatural stuff that happened as well, which is really freaking cool. But I will get to that point like later in the podcast. I gotta tell you about more of the dysfunctional stuff that happened. Now, if you guys have followed my content for a while, you know that I'm really into like spirituality and intuition, and I consider myself to be quite psychic. I don't know what it was with 2024, but I don't know what happened with that year, but I don't think I've ever been more discombobulated in my life. Like, my intuition was just like shut off for all of like late spring into the end of the summer. I just had I just wasn't grounded. I wasn't doing well. I think I was going through a lot too. I think we all kind of were going through a lot in 2024. That was a big year for all of us. And I think I just intuitively felt called to the land because it was where I was living. It was right near Pacific Spirit Park. And that's Musqueam Nation, that's Musqueam territory. There's so much spiritual energy in that part, like in that land. Like, it's everywhere, but particularly in that area. And there's something very deep and sacred about that forest. And I'll get to that later in the podcast as well. And I think why I felt so drawn to living here was because of the land. Because the house itself was just very dark and chaotic and dysfunctional. What drew me to the house, though, was the fact that, like, I'm a bit of a free spirit. I like living arrangements where I can kind of, like, do a bit more what I want to do. Like, if I want to have a joint on the porch, I can have a joint on the porch, This house, there was, like, graffiti on the walls and, like, paint and art, and I actually really kind of liked that. I liked that was a thing. Like, I could just paint the walls whatever I want. Like, I think that's super cool. I'm more hippie-ish. Like, I just don't need really nice stuff. As long as my house is cozy, clean, it's things work and function in it, like, that's all I really care about. So a lot of the things were kind of meeting my needs in that way, because the basement suite was really clean and it was nice, and I just felt really drawn to the room I would be staying in, and it had like wood walls. It was very beautiful. So I felt really drawn to the place. Everyone seemed pretty nice. They were all kind of like stoner people, UBC students. So everything seemed pretty good, like, going into the situation. I was pretty certain that there was a couple living next to me in one of the rooms, and so I thought, okay, I'm not just surrounded by dudes, there's at least a chick living here. And things changed, though. Like, sometimes you just don't know what you're getting yourself into, even though things seem really good on paper. And I hope that if you guys listen to this podcast, like, that's a takeaway there, is like, really ground yourself and sit with how you feel with a situation, because some things can look glamorous and look inviting and magical and right, and sometimes it's a plot twist and it's really not, and it's a learning curve. But I guess, like, if you don't catch yourself, you're learning the lesson anyway. So, it's all good. It's all good. So anyway, back to the story. So I move into this place, and I kid you not, 3 days later, there's like some dysfunctional person wasted upstairs, smashing tables and getting mad and causing chaos. And this was during a weeknight too. So I had to work really early in the morning. And I woke up and I'm like, what the actual F? Like, and he was just like screaming, and then there was other people screaming at him, and it was just like so crazy. And I grew up with that kind of stuff, so I'm kind of used to it, but like it was definitely really disturbing to be in a house full of dudes and then, you know, hearing that kind of stuff, because I just thought they were all UBC students. They're all studying whatever. There was a couple people studying like music and being DJs, and they had a bit of a DJ set up, and they said that they were all respectful with their hours and stuff too, and when they would play music. But this guy, I've noticed over time too, he did apologize for his outburst, but still, like, totally crazy. It's just scary to be around, especially if you're a woman. It's just terrifying. Like, so there's that, and then he would just start like DJing from like 1 p.m. to like 10 o'clock at night, and you know, there was a couple of us that lived there that had to like get up early. So that wasn't too bad. But the guy that lived next to me that had a girlfriend, he seemed really fun and charming at first, and like when I realized his girlfriend didn't actually live there, she just stayed there a lot. So I didn't even know that. I thought she lived there. And so I ended up getting to know the guy a bit more just because he actually lived with me. So we'd just have like a joint and a coffee together here and there and have a chat. But and I thought he was a really decent dude, and I thought, you know, he's pretty cool, but I could also kind of feel that there was some kind of bit of flirtation going on, and, you know, I kind of had to reel that in because I don't ever want to come between people, even if it's just flirting. I know flirting is just flirting, whatever, but after a while, like, I would hear him talking to his girlfriend in the other room, and he would say really nasty stuff. Like, he would just be like, belittle her, make it all about him. He would say, oh, like, you're just crushing on my dreams, and like just telling her she's fat, and like just awful stuff. And then I shit you not, like 2 minutes later I'd walk out the door and he'd be all cheery and bubbly and trying to make me laugh. Like, it was really it was unsettling. Like, you know, someone who's secretly dark like that, it was just like, okay, what kind of person are you, you know? And so I ended up getting closer to the girl, because, like, you know, girl power all the way, man. Like, my sister, she deserves better than that. So this guy, like, he was really weird, and he would just, I don't know, he would just say nasty stuff under his breath. He was kind of creepy. And then the creepiest one was the guy that he had been staying up north for about a month or something, so I didn't see him until a month later. He comes back to live with us, and right away he's very, like, creepy. Like, we go to smoke a joint together, and he's sitting like right next to me in my space, like leaning in. I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. Maybe he's just being a hippie. And then over time I've noticed, like, he's just always trying to hug me and giving me long hugs. He's like, he would walk by and like say something, and he'd kind of whisper it in my ear. Like, he wouldn't be saying anything in particular, but he would just like do that, and he'd like almost nuzzle his face into like my head. And I'd ask him, like, what are you doing, man? And he's like, oh, sorry, I'm just, like, super high right now. I don't think that's a good enough excuse for that kind of behavior. Like, that's pretty shitty. Also, one time my roommate's girlfriend caught that creepy guy in my room. And I've caught him in my room before, too. And both times he was saying that he was just putting my cat back in my room, that she had gotten out. But, you know, you don't need to, like, go inside my room to put my cat away. You could just open the door, you know, plop my cat in there, and then, like, close my door. So he was just, like, just a weird, creepy guy. Just pushing boundaries. So it was just, like, a weird, like, build-up. Slowly things got worse and worse, and he got creepier, and, like, they ended up DJing all the time and doing a lot of drugs, and I was like, okay, so this is a frat house. I don't understand why I didn't see this in the beginning. I thought it was just like an actual like professional student housing. Like I didn't think it was a fucking frat house. I should have known maybe by all the graffiti on the walls, but like I said, my intuition was really off. So I try to leave the place, and I'm trying to move out. I'm trying to get the F out of there because like there's just too much chaos going on, like too much fighting, too much like, you know, I wasn't getting any sleep. So I'm like, and I got into a big fight with the creepy guy the night before. I was like, you guys need to turn your music down. Like people need to work. So the next day I decided to just move out of there, and I'm packing up my stuff, and my parents, luckily, they came and helped me, and this guy comes downstairs, the creepy guy, and he's standing in my doorway, and he's staring at me in such a creepy way, like he's not even blinking, he's just staring at me, and he's like, how could you do this to me, like why are you leaving, blah blah blah. And I've only known this guy for a couple weeks. He's like, do you know what stress this puts me through? And I'm like, dude, just get the landlord to fill the unit, it's fine, like you have time. It really wasn't an issue of me leaving. Like this house was so, like one dude that was living there that's breaking stuff and smashing stuff, like he wasn't even paying rent for like 3 months prior, so it's not an issue if I just moved out, like trust me. This guy was just giving me a hard time. And then he like, you know, eventually my mom looks up and like is like, well, you know, that's my daughter, like get out of here, we're leaving. So eventually he leaves. And then he sends me a text later that night, like a massive text about how unhappy he is that I'm leaving and how we have a connection and all this. And you know, this guy has just been nothing but like creepy and weird, and he also has a girlfriend, or so he says he has a girlfriend. So that's even creepier too. So I dodged a fat bullet there. I feel like even my friends can vouch, like he probably would have been the kind of dude to like GHB somebody or like something like that. I don't know what I can say on YouTube. I'm probably gonna get banned for I'm probably gonna get banned for posting this, but like I'm just trying to be real. Like he had really creepy, sadistic, snaky, like sneaky dark energy. Like it was really creepy. Okay, so now for the supernatural shit. So I felt such an energetic pull to this place too. And the coincidence is when my friend actually came to see the place, she felt very familiar about it. And I think what happened is that house that I lived in, the basement suite, used to be my friend's mom's best friend's place. And my room was a living room that got converted into 2 rooms because it used to just be one massive living room. And that living room actually hosted a lot of spiritual ceremonies in there because the woman, like my friend's mom's friend, was a Wiccan, and they would host ceremonies in the room, in the very living room that was now my bedroom. So there was all that spiritual energy in there. And the fireplace is in there, and if you move the board that's covering the fireplace, there's like old half-used candles like all inside the fireplace that look like they haven't been touched in years. And I really doubt like some frat dude was like fucking around with candles. I mean, maybe, but so it was just really cool. Like, so there's witches that lived there before. So I also feel like I was kind of called there for a reason too. And I'm also like, I've been studying how to be a medium for a long time. And there's still things I'm trying to work out. I'm not perfect. But there was a lot of ghostly energy in this house and on this land, like that land. And one of the biggest things that would happen is, okay, well, actually, I'm going to tell you what happened first. So the first night that I slept there, I had this weird, eerie, dark dream that this giant spider was like wrapping me up in its web. After that dream, I also felt a little depressed going forward, and I was like, there was, for a week, or at least 2 weeks of me living in there, there was spiders everywhere. Like, there was just, everywhere I looked, there was spiders. Like, it was insane. More ghostly than that, I noticed there would be times where the lights would flicker in my room, like, so much. And doing a lot of the research I've been doing, that is one of the biggest signs that there's ghostly energy there, is because they can manipulate light through their energy, right? And my friend even, she saw it too. She saw, like, the lights flicker. And there's one time where I'm in the kitchen talking to my roommate, and all of a sudden my cat is meowing frantically in my bedroom. So I go to the bedroom, and I can literally see, it's not clear as day, but it's this blurry white orb, and it's darting around my room incredibly fast. And I could see it like a zoomie, like just zooming around my room, and it was about the size of my fist. And the lights were also flickering hysterically as well, and I was like, I think that was the first time, like, as an adult, where I'm like, this is actually live, true, ghostly occurrence, like, or ghostly energy happening right now, right in front of my face. You know, I've seen stuff here and there, but this was, like, so loud, and just, I could see it and feel it. It was crazy. And I honestly felt like a warning about the house. Because not soon after that, I had a dream that I also had to move out of that house again. So I just had a lot of anxiety about this house. Like, there was some crazy stuff happening. Another thing that happened is I had a dream that in one of the rooms, the one room where the crazy guy lived that was always breaking stuff, I dreamt that there was a little ghost boy in that guy's room, and in just, like, every day, like, my cat would just always want to go into his room. And cats tend to be energetic healers by nature, so it would make sense that she would want to go in there. And I truly believe there was a little ghost boy as at least one of the ghosts in that house, because when my cousin came over to visit, she's also quite the medium. She felt like there was a little ghost boy. She told me, she's like, I feel like there's a ghost kid in here, like, tugging at my sleeve, like, wants my attention. And I told her, I was like, oh, no way, I had a dream that there was a little ghost boy here. So, I mean, it's actually really cool stuff. A bit darker than that is, there's one part in the forest I was walking in Pacific Spirit Park. Very sacred land. I hope that if you go there, bring a little food offering for the animals, give a little prayer, do something nice for the land, because there is a lot of energy in there, and there's a lot of sacred energy, and it's just really important that we respect the land that we're living on. So in one area, I started walking off trail and going more into the forest, because that's kind of just what I do. And it was close to West 33rd, going up to West, like, 27th kind of area in the forest, kind of around there. And I could sense in one area of the forest there was kind of this dark, deep, slumber-like energy, like almost like a spirit of, like, death or something lived there, and I knew I had to respect it. And this guy was really interesting, because I had a vision of him the night before, which was almost a skeleton-like figure with a cloak, but like antlers, like almost like deer antlers. And so this creature, I was walking through the forest, and he came out, actually. I think I went a little too close to his area, and I think I disturbed him a little bit, which I feel absolutely terrible for. And I've made up for it. But he came out, and he was giving me a really harsh lesson about the sacredness of land and the sacredness of life, and how deep and how precious things are and how things are to be taken very seriously in regards to the natural world and how connected everything is. But this being, he was almost like the being of like death and like deep dark, but not evil, but deep dark, like underworld, almost like it's very hard to describe, but it was very deep. And I've met with an elder death like spirit before in Central Park, and she was more of like a crone like woman who sometimes wore that bird mask on her face, but even she was more gentle. Like, it wasn't the same. Like, this one was a very like, you don't, like, there was no gentleness there. It was like, you don't mess with this entity. And I feel like because I overstepped a boundary, it was like really also hindering my energy in a way that felt really negative at times, and felt like I was confused, and I just was not doing well there, even though like I loved living in a house close to nature and whatever. It just really, like, I don't know, I just felt like he just had some harsh lessons for me spiritually. So that was a thing. One of the other cool things is there's a little mini silent trail in Pacific Spirit Park, and this is a lighter story, less scary. This one's really cool because I'm walking through the silent trail, and I look over to my left, and there's kind of a little dark clearing in the forest, almost like a little grove, and I felt something very sacred and elderly and spiritual there. Not in a bad way, not in the way that I felt before with that other area of the forest, with that entity, but this one felt very like elder and very like mystical and very like, I didn't feel threatened by it. I didn't feel very much like I just felt pulled to it, like I should go check it out. So this time I go in to check it out, and I take I walk in for a couple meters, and diagonally across from me to my left, there's this I see these wings come up, and this big gray beautiful owl flies up into a tree and just starts like checking me out very intensely, like, and I couldn't shake this feeling of like elders, but like I was like, it was like a judgment call or something, and I felt very like I felt like I had to deeply respect what had just happened, and I should at that point do a little prayer and then leave, because just out of respect and the fact that there was some serious elder energy there, I didn't know if it was a good idea to kind of walk any further or do anything like that. So I really respected that. I felt the intensity and that energy was really commanding respect, but not in a dark way, in a very like interesting way, like a very powerful way, where I look up to them. So I just bowed my head with a little prayer, and I left the owl, and 2 weeks later, it felt good to go back in there and have a little visit. And so I was walking around in there, and then I looked down, and directly down in front of me is this quartz like white rock, like just half just sticking out of the dirt, and it had like actual quartz in it. Like it was just like I literally found a crystal in this spiritual sacred place. And I asked Spirit, the energy was really nice. There was sun coming through the trees, and it was kind of glowing on me, and I felt really warm and loved, and I felt like it was a gift for me. And so at that point, I felt like it was okay to take this crystal home, and I felt really supported. And so sometimes spirits and or the universe will gift you with something, and it's just about tuning in and feeling like, is it right to cross over here? Is it right to take this object? Is it right to be in this space? And that's why it's really important to tune in to your environment and to what's happening spiritually around you when you're coming across this kind of stuff. And also, like, if it seems dark and negative, like, A, like, get out of there, and B, like, always set energetic boundaries. Like, picture a wall of gold light around you, and you know, always release any energetic attachments after you're in a place that feels like that, or if you start to feel drained, release any energetic attachments off you. So that's all the ghostly stuff that has happened to me, and the crazy dysfunctional stuff that has happened to me in this house. It's really important to set boundaries with people and to set boundaries with any energy. So energy coming from people or ghosts, whatever it is, if you struggle with empathy, like you really struggle with taking in people's feelings and not having healthy boundaries, this is something to learn, especially if you're in roommate situations like this, is learn your boundaries. And also, like, you deserve the best. So if you're in an unhealthy living situation, my prayer for you now, and I'm putting this out in the universe for you now, is that you get to break free from that situation and something good is coming your way. A new living situation that is better for you, that suits your needs, is coming for you. So be it. Okay, beautiful souls, thank you for listening to my super long, I don't usually do podcasts this long, but here it is. Thank you for your love and support, and I hope you got what you needed out of this podcast, and I hope you enjoyed. I will chat you up in the next one. Love you all, bye.